Hey everyone, and warm welcome to the Happiness Podcast, and warm welcome to Jamie Beron to the Happiness Podcast. He is a person I've been wanting to have on the podcast for so long, because I love the impact and the mission of Suco Session, what he created. He's a founder of Suco Session. So welcome, and can you explain why you created it and what it is? What is Suco Session?
So yeah, thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate being here. Suco is an active meditation, and the purpose of this meditation is to create joy, to use a combination of ancient tools, things that have been around for thousands of years, and modern technology, and to bring it in a format that is available and accessible to everybody, that you don't have to be a yogi or an advanced meditator, but can still receive the benefits of some incredible practices in a very fun and accessible way. That's the mission. That's Suco in a nutshell. And of course, the way I've just described it, I'm sure invokes a lot of questions like, what is this thing? It's not so specific. So I'm going to unpack it a little bit. And what we are doing with Suco and what we've been doing for the last 6 years is bringing together groups of people in an open environment, in a space that is inviting for people to open up and connect with their emotions and connect with each other. And we do this by combining repetitive movement, dancing, shaking, and intention, and electronic music to create a ritual, a formula that takes usually around about an hour in a public setting or in a space that we would do either with the general public, or what we have been focusing on and doing a lot of work with is with companies, where I would guide the group through this experience over 60 minutes and move them from a state of usually disconnection, a space that we find ourselves in, to the highly connected, highly human state of joy. And
I'm gonna quickly explain how I met you and how I got into Suco Session for the first time, and also to make it very clear to the audience. So like there was this co-working which now closed, one co-work,
yeah.
and so one of the days, I don't know, it was, let's say 6 years ago. I don't know when it was. I think it was just when you started. I don't know how many years ago. It was a couple of years ago. There was this woman coming to me like, hey, after work, there's this awesome guy coming from South Africa, and we're gonna go to the roof of this co-working, and it was surrounded by water. I was in the port of Barcelona, and we're gonna go be there and meditate and do yoga, and then have headsets and do like a ecstatic dance. That's how she explained it to me. And I was like, this sounds amazing. I'm totally in. And then the whole experience was even better. And I loved it with the headsets, that if you take it off, you have complete silence. But in the moment you have them on, you have like, Jamie is also a very good DJ, and very good songs. And everyone is like dancing and like making crazy movements, like not like the normal dancing, but like you're inviting people to make movements and sounds they don't normally make. And that's how I first heard and got about it. Or maybe it was like the introduction for this, but correct me and place it better of what's happening now in a Suco session.
There's no correction. So I love hearing other people's experiences of Suco, and I've been asked over the last 6 years many times to describe this thing, but the truth is that for everybody it's different. For everybody it's a unique experience, because what they're experiencing in Suco is ultimately themselves. And this is an opportunity to move past our barriers, our limiting beliefs, our fears of being relevant, of being cool, of being accepted, of doing things right, of connecting with our bodies. These are all things that we find ourselves experiencing in a session. And you mentioned ecstatic dance, and this was perhaps this woman's description of it.
Exactly.
And for me, it's completely the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced a lot of ecstatic dance in my life, and I found that what was happening a lot of the time when I went to ecstatic dance, what I was facing was a lot of ego. Mm-hmm. So because the objective in an ecstatic dance is ecstasy, it's to dance in a way that is outrageous, that's crazy. To be potentially the most crazy person in the room means you're the best ecstatic dancer. And this is not a criticism of that practice at all, but just for me, an observation of the difference of what I'm trying to achieve here. And when we practice Suco, we work with repetition. We work with simplicity. So it's always about repeating simple movements until the state of catharsis or ecstasy arrives naturally, but that it's linked to an emotion. So it's not a state that you're trying to force. It's not a state that you're trying to create. It's a state that naturally arises because through the practices, through the breath, through the repetition, you start to feel. You start to move beyond fear. You start to forget that you're even doing it a lot of the time. And then the body naturally slides into that zone. So it's a little, at least for me, it's a little bit different. And there's also something very unifying about the safety and the comfort of doing something that is repetitive and the same. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to be a dancer. You don't have to try. You just try the best as you can to hold yourself in the consistency and in the meditation of doing the same thing over and over again.
This is also why you're the perfect guest to the Happiness podcast, because Suco is such a happy place. Like I joined a lot of times, and I like the one on the Desigual rooftops. They are epic. And it's such a happy place. And exactly, like I always without getting, because I never heard you talking about it with this much detail. So I always thought it was a bit similar, but I was always like, why do I feel out of place? And it's like dance, and there's a lot of ego going. And it's true, Suco is a very egoless event. And I always felt like, yes, like I'm just moving, I'm just flowing. Whereas when I was looking around and everyone was doing it better, and I was like, oh, fuck. So, that's true. So I'm very happy I asked this, because of this explanation really it made click for me. What's the difference? Because on Suco I feel very, very safe and very good.
Yeah, and there's a challenge in that in itself, is because to stay in something simple is also challenging, because the mind really wants to control situations. It does want to express in certain ways. It does want to attach to certain behaviors and things that we're used to. So to stay in something that is simple and that is repetitive is sometimes very challenging for people, but also very healing. Because it's in that safe, quiet place that we're able to finally relax from the need to do more, be more, control more. And then in that space, that's where the emotion really starts to show itself. Like, what are we really feeling in this moment? How can we observe that emotion? How can we allow that emotion to flow without trying to control it, without trying to do more?
And what's the current format of Suco? Still, that mostly it's like a quiet place, and then the yoga, and then it goes into more active. And how it ends currently? What's the current form? Have you changed it a bit, or like have you like?
So in our public events, we offer yoga before the Suco. It's a space where we have live music, we have yoga, we have a place for the community. And the yoga class will finish, and that then we'll move into the Suco, which is
so
a completely...
It finishes, there's a break, and then more people come who only booked the second part.
Exactly. Some people like to practice yoga and come for both. Some people just come and practice Suco. And Suco is, it's not happening on a mat. So Suco is something that happens throughout a space. We move around. And it does follow a ritual that I've created of certain steps that I've designed to help us to move through certain states and to achieve certain things. But it starts very, very still. So we start by setting an intention. We start seated, and then we move into some gentle movement that helps us to open up the body. Very simple, something that a person who is 6-year-old or 96-year-old could do. And we then move into shaking and hold ourselves in shaking for a little while. And this is a very, very important step. It's very confronting a lot of the time to shake the body and to feel what's going on there, and to feel the blocks, and to feel sometimes a lot of the time that we feel stuck. Shaking is not easy. It gets easier through practice, as does every step of Suco. It gets easier. And then, as I mentioned, we move into a lot of repetitive movements. And for each intention, for each session that we do, the movement will apply to achieving a certain goal within the body, to moving energy in a certain way in the body. And the sessions do lead up to a very climatic point where the music elevates, where the energy of the group elevates, where we create a collective energy. And a huge part of the sessions is about connection. It's about connecting with the moment, connecting with yourself, and connecting with each other. And we move into a lot of connective experiences where we allow other people in. We allow ourselves to see them. And there's breath work involved in both the movement and in the still aspects of the practice, and a lot of gratitude. So we always close and seal off the sessions that we do with gratitude. And what this does is, in a sense, it solidifies the work that we're doing. You know, if you set the intention to practice self-love and you allow yourself to go through the emotional journey that is, what it does mean to feel self-love, to connect with that on a very deep and very real level, and then to bring yourself through this journey, through this full circle, to be grateful for yourself, to really allow yourself to feel what that feels like without conditions, then it creates this whole experience, something that is also not only just for the moment, because the work that we're doing collectively here is work that impacts and infiltrates into our lives, to start different conversations with ourselves and the people around us.
You were already mentioned on this podcast over 1 year ago in episode 2 by Pablo, and he said one of the things that really changed and impacted his life for the positive and on a more happier path was the morning ritual, the morning video that you recorded for I think you recorded for a group of people, no? You can explain more about it. But basically, it was like, Chris, you have to try it, and he sent it to me, and I love it. I've been like on my 3-month world trip. That was my thing to stay grounded, to have like one thing, because you're a different country every day. Like that was one thing to always come back to, doing the shaking, to doing the meditation, to doing the breathwork exercise that you have here. So maybe the 2 questions I have here is like, if you could explain why you recorded it and what it is. And
Absolutely.
The other question would be, there's also shaking in. So why you always come back to shaking? Like why? I mean, so it helps a lot to me, and I think it helps a lot to a lot of people. But if you can explain why shaking has such a beneficial effect.
Okay, I'll get to shaking, but first the ritual.
Perfect.
So my focus right now is to connect with as many people as possible, to share this practice with as many people as possible, because I feel that there is a need for this in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I feel like I can be a positive influence and can really help and share what I'm sharing in these sessions that we're doing in person in Barcelona is to create something that is available to everyone online, to create short format rituals, 20-minute long, that can enable people first thing in the day to cultivate the state that they want to experience in their day, to not assume that this is something that has to be out of their control and random. And what I mean by that is, when we wake up in the morning and the alarm is blaring and we pick up our cell phones and see a stream of emails and messages that need to get answered, and hear kids crying, and breakfast that need to be made, and jobs that need to be addressed, and all of this that's happening that pulls us out of ourselves and into immediately engaging with the world. And the world these days is not a calm and easy place to often be in. Our lives are hectic and stressful. It is filled with so much stimulation that is affecting the way that we feel. It's filled with so many addictive sources that constantly pull at us in different directions. And it's very common for people to go through hours, weeks, years without actually having any moments of direct conscious awareness and intention for themselves. The minute we wake up, it's like, how do I serve the world? How do I serve the people around me? But where is that moment for you? And if you think about it, this relationship that we have with ourselves, the person that you connect with when you open your eyes in the morning, the person that is with you all the time, this conversation, some of us call it a soul, some of us call it our consciousness, our brain, whatever you want to call it, there is this conversation going on inside. And that's important. That's the most important relationship that we have. And it needs time and attention. It needs to be nurtured. And my goal is to create a platform for us to be able to do that, to understand that if we nurture ourselves and put ourselves first, that we will be more available, more healthy, more effective for everybody around us. We will be a more complete human being if we care for ourselves and just create that foundation. And we can do this in simple ways. There's many basic practices that we can talk about that would really help with this. But my goal is to intercept that morning moment where we wake up, and instead of heading straight into stress mode, into work mode, to head into self-care mode, even if it's just for 20 minutes, and to dedicate 20 minutes of your day out of 24 hours to yourself, and the rest to everybody else is, I think, fair. I think maybe more should go towards yourself. But if that's the bare minimum we can do, let's do that. And what it requires is a little bit of planning to just decide, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to take this moment to give myself what I need. And what we need is something different. And I've created 9 meditations to meet what I feel would be the most necessary needs that we are experiencing right now. And this is a progressive practice that I call the practice of joy. The first practice within this series of meditations is called Be Here Now. Mm-hmm. And this is a meditation designed to pull us back into the present moment, because we are so attached to the future and the past. And because we're attached to the future and the past, we are experiencing a lot of physical ramifications of being attached to the future and the past. So if we're attached to the future, there's a lot of anxiety that we start to deal with. In the past, there's a lot of sadness and hurt that we're constantly reliving, and everything that we think, we feel on a physical level. So if you're thinking something stressful, it doesn't matter if it's the future, the past, it doesn't matter if it's true or not true. On a physical level, your body receives that neurochemistry as if it was happening right now to you. So remembering something really hurtful is happening on a cellular level to you in this moment, even if it's not here and now. And what coming into the present moment and that specific practice is doing is teaching us in a way that is very digestible, very accessible to everyone. So to not have to stress over the fact that sitting still in meditation in lotus position is so hard and often so distracting and difficult that it works against us, to create something that anybody can do, and not only that they can do it, that it's very effective and that it feels good and is so fun that they want to do it over and over and over again. That's the morning ritual. It's a 20-minute practice that is designed to be something that we enjoy doing, and a moment for us to really cultivate that connection with ourselves.
Exactly. And as a matter of conscious experience, the reality of our lives is always now. And to be very aware of this is something that the more you live in the now, the more happiness the more inner peace and happiness you have in your life. Because when you go too much into the future, you get an anxiety at one point if you overdo it, and too much into the past, it leads more to depression. So you really want to try to bring yourself back. Those files, like I've tried one of them and I love it, so I would love to try the other ones. Whatever ways, if someone listens to this podcast and says, I want to try those files, where could they find it, or how would that work?
So we're actually launching this November our digital platform where we're making this practice available to everyone, that they can access, for instance, the practice in a progressive way. And I mentioned 9 meditations, the first being Be Here Now. But what this really is going to be is something that people can use on a regular basis to address the thing that they need to address the most. So maybe what somebody is dealing with is needing more self-love, or needing to connect with the people around them, or needing to work on their flow states and creativity, whatever it may be, that to practice that on a regular basis and to build a healthy habit out of it, because repetition is the key. So if you get used to waking up and continuously doing this, then what you're doing is regularly getting used to experiencing these positive neurotransmitters that you create yourself in the morning: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, lowering cortisol. This is something that we can directly do for ourselves in the morning. And it's interesting to discuss happiness, because what we're talking about right now is happiness.
Exactly.
The state of happiness is something that is created through healthy habits. And if your life is chaos, if it is random, and if it's not managed in a conscious way, like for instance, the basics, like if you do not get the right amount of sleep, if you do not nurture your body with healthy sources of food, if you do not maintain healthy relationships and put effort into building healthy habits around these things, then it's unlikely that you're going to receive a positive outcome. It's unlikely that happiness is going to be your default state that you'll experience a lot of the time. And the people who are more happy in the world are people who have healthier habits. And this isn't also attached to our economic situation. This is something that actually I've really noticed in sort of more humble settings, in more rural settings. They actually have amazing healthy habits. They have amazing community habits. They have amazing practices around generosity and kindness and gratitude, and their respect and connection to the earth. And as a result, these communities actually naturally, or through generations and through knowledge of their ancestors, are actually practicing these things already. We need to go back a little bit, and we need to start to reconnect with what is important and what habits can we cultivate that we can actually start to use as a way to make sure that happiness isn't a random outcome. It's something that we're working on.
Exactly. So that's exactly why I decided to launch this podcast, because everyone thinks, yeah, either I'm happy or no, not everyone. A lot of people were telling me like, Chris, why are you so happy? Like I don't have this base level of happiness. Like how? And I explained it like happiness is a skill. It's a skill, and it's like doing the certain things and putting into like not having the most hectic life helps. Sleeping enough helps.
Yeah.
Like when you feel stressed, for example, doing those 20 connected breaths, like four fast, one slow, gets you out of stress. That helps. A lot of things, a lot of habits that clearly help.
Yeah.
And what I recently read is like that the last 5 minutes of your day, there's something, for example, that I'm currently working on. So everyone has morning rituals, but so they say that the last 5 minutes of your day is very, very important, because the state you're in there is what determines what kind of dreams you may have and how restful your sleep is. If you're more in an anxiety place and you go to sleep, you won't have the same quality. And I have 2 devices to measure the sleep, so I can really see. So it also is nice to like do a night meditation, or like to not only have a morning ritual, but also like have some habits. And can also I could even, so I'm a Facebook marketer by default, so I A/B test. So I would also do this in my life. So I would A/B test. Let me just do a couple of meditations before sleeping for 1 week. 1 week I do yoga before sleeping. 1 week I read before. 1 week is like very intense cuddling with my girlfriend before sleeping. Like just cheating, and then like tracking the data, and then I can see what gives the best sleep, for example.
And
like,
did you
also tracking, like I write down every day like what level of baseline happiness I have, and like I track what does this. And if you put so much dedication for it, you will have a lot of very high level of baseline happiness.
Yeah, that's the thing. The more consciously we live our lives, the more intentional we make them, the more we are going to get results that are the ones we want. I'd love to know what your A/B testing proved. What did you find was the best?
I know. So this one I'm currently testing. So like when we do, I meditate together, me and my girlfriend, before sleeping. But that's really good. And now this week is the one where yoga before sleeping.
Nice.
So and I can tell you which one. But like I think also like, so this is one thing that I think people should copy the testing approach to it. You should not copy, for example, I talk a lot on this podcast, nearly every episode I mention breathwork, because it's something that really changed things for me. But other people, and for example, yoga, it doesn't do too much to me. So in your morning ritual, for example, I love the shaking part. Like it's the best thing for me. The yoga one, I do it, but like it's not. I'm not enjoying it as much as others. I always feel, and therefore there's no general advice. Like you have to see what's the best for your character and for this version of yourself, and therefore I encourage to A/B test. Right, because if you test different things, then you will guaranteed find something that is well for you. Some people meditation works much better. Some people is more breath work. Some people is walks in nature. Like and you really want to find out what brings the most to you, what increases your baseline happiness the most, and you want to do this more often. Therefore, so like, but I'll share with you What's
Amazing.
it
I
for you?
look forward to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, what you're saying is absolutely correct. And it's really about getting to know ourselves. You know, what works for you? What do you eat that makes you feel energized? And what kind of company do you keep that really fulfills you? What kind of work do you do that really, makes you feel inspired? All of these questions are so important because we spend our lives actually just getting to know who we are if
Yeah.
you pay attention. And it's a very important relationship to spend, as I said, a little bit of time and energy on. It's really closely linked for me to also self-love.
Yeah.
This is such an important practice, but to really start to put a lot of energy into that concept of self-love. Like, if I love myself, what am I going to do here? What am I doing? Like, to really nurture yourself like a parent would a child. Such a powerful question that, actually, if you think about it, like, before you have to take any action, before you do anything, especially if it's something you're confused about, to be like, if I love myself, what do I do? Because we don't often use that as the navigation point. That's not our compass. It's usually something else. Like, if I want to make money, what do I do? If I want to get attention, what do I do? If I want to be popular, what do I do? All of these things are. But if I love myself, what do I do? It's a nice.
I like it. I've never thought about this one. There's a lot of things I'm taking away from this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the heart of everything we're talking about. If I love myself, how do I start my day? If I love myself, how do I go to bed? All of these things, like.
Or if I love myself, what kind of work do I do?
Exactly.
Like what's something that if that matters most, like loving myself, what kind of work do I create? And a lot of times the answer will be like, if I love myself, what really gets a lot of happiness is like having a clear purpose in life. And most people's purpose is in one way or the other related to helping others.
Yeah.
So I heard so many people. I was in one retreat. Everyone like wrote down their life purpose and which they already had or which they found, and there were 60 different life purposes, and all of them were in some way related to serving others, helping others.
Yeah. And it may sound like we've oversimplified it here a little bit, and that's because actually this is not easy. To love yourself is actually a journey of working through all of the traumas, all of the limiting beliefs and stories you've been telling yourself. And it's all about arriving at the point where you understand that you are worthy of your love. But to get to that point, sometimes is a little bit of a painful journey to look into why we forgot that we were worthy of this. What are we, for instance, doing that's the opposite of this as a way to mask the pain that we're feeling, to mask the emotions that we're scared to feel? That is a very, very powerful and sometimes a difficult journey that we avoid because it's hard.
One question that I want to ask. So, out of in the context of like, I just had lunch 2 hours ago with a famous Facebook marketer from Germany, and he's member of Entrepreneurship's organization EO, and there. When they sit in a circle and everyone shares, they don't consult, they don't give advice. But what they do is they share their life stories and what worked for them. And a lot of people can take value from that. And it's also, they always explain that it's very valuable for them to share. So if you want, we could do this exercise, if you feel like it, on limiting beliefs, and you can share which ones you were able to get better at or overcome, and what worked for you. Like, like not being like, you have to do this, but sharing your story, your experience, what helped you on limiting beliefs.
With pleasure.
Nice.
So I used to be really afraid, terrified of my self-worth, of my value, of whether I was good enough, whether I was relevant, whether people would see who I actually was, because inside I didn't feel like I was very much. And an example of this would be, like, for instance, in a nightclub. Like, I would be scared to approach a girl. I would have to get drunk first. I would be scared to dance. I would have to drink first, that kind of thing. I would never want to stand up in front of people and speak my mind or my truth, or, be in the center of attention. I wanted to hide because there was something within me that was a limiting belief that I developed in my life that led me to believe that I didn't have that level of self-worth. And it was actually the practices that I'm now teaching And the fact that I'm teaching them now is a result of self-work. I discovered these practices, many of them in different sources and from different people and different masters and teachers, but practices that really put me in a position to confront this idea. And an example of this would be, I went to a dance community in Pune where everybody was in this room and they were all wild and free, dancing in these robes, and there was just no fear in them. And I had all the fear. Couldn't move my body, couldn't express myself, and this burning question was lit inside of me. What is wrong with you? What are you afraid of? Why can't you move? No, there's no consequence. There's no, the world is not going to fall apart if you dance. But I felt very self-conscious and afraid. And I went and started this journey of self-work, where I put myself in a position where I started to dance and I started to teach and I started to do things that did scare me as a way to break through these beliefs. And I enabled myself to get to a point where now I comfortably, in my center, as if I'm sitting in a warm embrace with the people I love, am able to talk to thousands of people, to teach in these environments, and not with ego. It doesn't matter how many people are listening, but the fact is that I'm so at home there, and I know that what I have to offer is something beautiful, and I trust it, and I trust myself, and it was a journey to get there.
Yeah, I can totally imagine what kind of journey it must have been, because sometimes when you see the end product, like when I met you many years ago now, the first time, and you were giving this session, I was like, oh my God, like he's like so self-confident. For sure, he's like, and the first thought you have is like, he's always been self-confident. He's always been like doing this. He was born to stand there and to dance. And I was like, oh my God, like he just dances so free, like, and I'm not doing it. So I was like, yeah.
It was the way that it needed to be as well, because the fact that I went through that really helped me to understand it and to understand this journey for others and how I can share it. And when I see these blocks and these limiting beliefs in others, I have a deep sense of compassion for it, because I know what it feels like, and I think that that's why it's such an important part. So I don't also regret it or have any bad feelings about it. It's fantastic that was the journey. It has so much more meaning when you go through it, but the work is to go through it. We don't have to accept anything within our personalities. We don't have to accept anything about ourselves. You could tell yourself your whole life that you are weak. Or let's take something simple. You could tell yourself your whole life that you are afraid of heights. And you will believe this story because it's a story that you keep reaffirming in yourself, and it's maybe attached to an incident where you felt afraid of some high place when you were younger. It's okay. But the truth is that you get to design yourself, you get to choose. And the way that we choose is through action. The way that we disrupt the ego, and one of the most spiritual things that we can do towards disrupting the ego, is something that we wouldn't normally do. Because then the ego starts to freak out. It doesn't know who it is. You don't know who you are when you do something you don't normally do. So if you keep telling yourself the story, I am afraid of heights, but you choose not to acknowledge that story, and for a moment you go stand in a high place, and you'll feel afraid, and it'll be an intense situation the first time, and maybe the second time, and maybe the third time, but eventually it's less and less and less. And when you do it enough, you start to become something else. You start to become a person who's not afraid of heights. And this applies to every emotion, every story that you're telling yourself, everything that you do.
So what in my case, I realized, so what I did wrong is when the repetition, no? Because, so this example really applies. I'm afraid of heights. So I was a limiting belief I have. So I was like talking to one of my best friends. Hey, Lucas, let's jump from a plane. And we did it. We jumped from 5,000 meters here in Costa Brava. And I was scared. But then I wanted to jump first to get out, I did it. I felt better afterwards. And then the next time I was on a cliff or so, I felt the same afraid of heights. So I think it would need more repetition to be a thing. So I was like, because then I lost motivation, because I was like, I haven't seen the results. Like sometimes I'm like, I want to see results fast. And I one of my limiting beliefs also patience, right? and I don't have the patience to repeat it enough to go further. But maybe I should just do a skydiver, how do you call it, license, and you have to jump enough, and then
Yeah, but also, some trauma and some fear is very, very strong, and it's very ingrained. So it's not a question of, okay, quickly, let's sort this out. It's a practice. It's work. As for me, with my journey of self-worth, that took years. That was, and I'm so glad I took that journey. It changed my life, but it was work. And a very big part of this is to also understand and to start to recognize the process that you are facing, the mental process that you're facing when you are in that situation. So when you're on the cliff, to notice the conversation and the thoughts that you're having with yourself. Okay, so I see this fear. I recognize it. And I could also go into a process now of panic. I can go into a process of, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm freaking out. This is not okay. Take me away. Make it stop. That process is never going to help you to deal with that situation. If your intention is to heal and to evolve and transgress, then the process is different. I'm in this situation. I see myself in this situation. I can breathe in this situation. I can observe this fear. Yes, it's there, but I'm not the fear. I'm not the emotion I'm feeling. I am the awareness of
you're not
this
your
emotion.
emotions, exactly.
And that is how we can overcome anything, is to find ourselves in a state of calmness and to find that internal peace despite the intensity of the things that are happening around us. A practice I love is, for instance, being in the ice baths. And so many people love this right now and love this practice. And there's a lot of physical benefits. But for me, my favorite benefit is actually the emotional one. To be in a situation that is so intense that your body feels, oh my God, this is so cold, I could die, I could get hypothermia. That's what's happening on a physical level. But in time, with practice, you start to observe the sensations you're feeling in your body and still feel calm. Still feel, okay, I can just see this. It's just something that's happening, but I'm okay. I'm fine. And that skill is absolutely life-changing, because the world is constantly throwing us situations like that. But we can stay calm, and we can see our fear and not let our fear completely destroy us.
And one friend, Patrick Wind, he recently talked to me also about, like, and when the world gets more hectic, we just become more resilient. Like the shipping, the thing that holds the ships in one place in a storm. Yeah. Not the anchor, was a shipping freighter, I think it was called. Yeah. But I'm not the native English speaker, as you know. But yeah, so you become strong and in a peaceful way strong, so you can also hold that peace in the storm. Or, like, for example, your morning ritual, like, was like helping Pablo, for example, to become a better dad for his kids that he shared, even though sometimes can be hectic and very stormful, no? So that's, like, always knowing that there's this deep underlying big consciousness behind it, and this consciousness is not at all those emotions and not at all those limiting beliefs. It's just pure beingness and pure consciousness. And like, that's why for me I love breath work so much, because it gets me to those places where meditation would probably also get me, but for me it would probably take like hours, like, and not 1 hour in breath work. That's why I prefer. But again, everyone should A/B test what's it for you that brings you to those states.
Yeah.
I read a very, very cool phrase from you about consciousness. Can you remind me what is, like, the question was to answer what is consciousness, or what was the question?
Oh,
like, that was, I read it and I was like, I forgot exactly what it was, but I loved it.
Constantly questioning what it is to be conscious.
Okay, so you're constantly questioning what it is to be conscious, and what?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's in my nature to be curious, but
I can see that.
It's also something that started when I was a kid. When I was a little boy, I was so fascinated to understand what this is, what this life is. Why am I here? What am I doing? What does this mean? And I know that many people ask these questions, and I know that many people have tried to answer them, and there's so many different answers out there. And religions, I think, in a large sense, aim to put people at peace around these big questions. But for me, this is a journey inwards. And the more I look into myself, the more I realize that the depths of what's going on inside the layers that I can peel, the really deep spiritual experiences that I can go on, and all of these practices and different masters and teachers. All of this is a way to just go in and try and understand, what am I? What is this existence? And I think that's the journey. And I also believe that the deeper I go into these questions of understanding my own consciousness, the more available I can be to serve. I'm not here to provide answers. I'm not here to pretend to be some kind of a guru or mystic. That's not what I'm about. But I think that if I can be as sensitive as possible and as emotionally connected to what it means to be alive and to be conscious and human and aware and living in this world that is very complicated and very mysterious, with as much authenticity as I can, then I can really be available to people to help them deal with these same questions that are very, very scary. Because it is scary being a human being. It's fun and it's wonderful and it's an incredible adventure, and there's so much mystery in it. But if we boil it down to really open our eyes and wake up and think, okay, what is going on here? We are these tiny little creatures on this planet, this rock floating through space, chasing a ball of fire that we call a sun, in the vastness of a universe that is so big that we can't even begin to grasp it. We can't even understand it. And we don't have an instruction manual. We don't know what it means. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So we're here with these big questions, and what we choose to do is to ignore that. To be like, well, let's focus on Instagram. Let's focus on our next meal. Let's focus on play, which is all fine. But there is this question, and it's not going to go away. And we are here. That's the truth, is we are here. Why?
Yeah. Why? Exactly.
Why?
Why is there a universe? Not we can explain. Now we can explain the creation of it, the Big Bang, but we don't know like why was this dance ball there? Like why did it? Yeah. Like who? Like what's the point? And yeah.
For me, the closest I've gotten to an answer to that question is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
We are here for emotion. We are here to feel with as much openness as we can the full polarity of our emotions, because this is the human experience. To really openly feel what it feels like to feel sad, to lose something, to feel completely grateful, to feel so in love, to feel frustrated. All of these emotions paint the picture of this human experience, which is our life. And the reason I believe this, the reason I feel this, is I do believe that this is a conscious experience that is connected to a greater wholeness, that we are part of something divine that is unfolding here. And if I believe this, and if I am a conscious being that chose to come to this planet, to come perhaps from a state of enlightenment, to this very human state that is very volatile, moving through many different things, why would I do that? Why, as a conscious being, would I come here? And when I look at what this life involves, it is emotion. It involves emotion. It involves the good, the bad, the hard, the easy. It involves all of this stuff. And if I came here for this, then that must be the reason, so that I can experience the story. And we don't do that by living asleep, by living addicted, by living switched off. We need to turn ourselves on. We need to connect. And that's my purpose.
My belief system on this is very, very similar to yours. I would go a bit further even. Have you ever watched or read the book The Egg, or watched Andy Weir, I think, or watched the 10-minute video on this subject? If not,
No.
I would
please share it.
I would invite you to watch it once. I'll share you. And also to the guests, I really think I talked about this in episode 7 and put it in the bonus show. I'll put it again in the show notes. I think it's like a very, very beautiful explanation what could be, and I would quite like it. This is like a place where we come to train and to learn and to deal with emotions, and it goes way deeper. I won't explain it as well. So I would, people who are curious, I would invite you to see this. It's 10 minutes and it will explain it way better than I ever could. It's very beautiful. I enjoy it. I think I watched it like 20 times and I show it to people, and
Amazing. Well, I look forward to seeing that.
Coming back to the thing, we question we haven't answered is why we're shaking.
Yeah,
Suco
of
sessions,
course.
we have the shaking because we can talk for hours. We have so many things. In Suco session, you have a shaking, and in your morning ritual, which I love, you also have a shaking, and it feels very beneficial. But if you can explain
So
what's
on a physical level, shaking
yeah.
has many benefits, and
And it's like a full body shaking, you know, like you
yeah,
stand
and it's
and
once again, it's not forced. It's
Yeah.
repetition. So when we stand on our 2 feet and we try to shake, often we feel blocked, we feel stuck, that we can't move. And this is a state that we can carry for a long time. And if you're blocked physically, it's very likely that you're going to be blocked creatively, you're going to be blocked energetically. So we're aiming to liberate and move energy. And there's a lot of different systems and beliefs in, Chinese medicine, for instance, and in yoga around the chakras and about the importance of allowing energy to move. And so this is one of the physical reasons. It's also a very good way to detoxify. You move a lot of lymphatic fluid. It has a wonderful effect on your nervous system. It sends a lot of blood flow into your muscles, which is good. On another level, it's also a very interesting way to interpret a conversation that we're having with ourselves, because we can shake. Anybody can shake. There's not a reason why one person can shake their body and another not, except for the fact that there's a different conversation going in that person. And shaking is actually, it's a practice. So when we start the shaking, we feel very stuck, very tight in our bodies, but through repetition, we loosen up, we open up. And this is, communicating something very, very interesting to yourself about your own ability to be free, about your ability to be relaxed, about your ability to allow yourself to be free and relaxed, because we often don't. One of the things that I often say to people when we're shaking is, why do you feel like you cannot allow this for yourself? That we need to feel like, okay, there's maybe somebody watching, I need to conform to a certain set of rules and beliefs. There is no consequence, there is no danger, there is no risk of doing it, yet it's very, very hard for a lot of people, and it gets easier to do this. So that practice is it's very liberating, it's very freeing. And an interesting thing to note is actually how natural this is as a way for animals and mammals to deal with stress. So if you observe mammals in the wild, for instance, if an antelope or a deer gets chased by a lion, then the natural response of that animal after, if it gets away, if it's lucky, it gets away, is to shake, to convulse.
Exactly. Every time you can watch any documentary animals, they always shake afterwards.
Exactly. Babies do it too. Like
human babies, or
yeah, human babies do it too. Like tantruming and shaking is so natural to children, because it's a way of moving energy, of moving it out of the body. And what we humans often do is, because we need to maintain a level of control, and because it's so socially unacceptable to do this, we close, we block, we clench it, often around the gut, in the organs, and we get so tight. And that is a way of burying emotion. And there's a lot of belief, and I believe this too, that when we bury emotions in our bodies, that we create actual physical blocks, and that don't go away. The emotion doesn't disappear. It's there, it's in your body, and we create neurological patterns that your body gets used to reinforcing. So if you keep getting used to clenching your gut when you get afraid, or into your jaw, or something, that you actually develop these patterns in your body that become a big problem later. They compound and they get a lot worse, and they can create suffering, disease, many different things. So it's important to understand that we need to let go. There's a lot of research into also the benefits and the risks, of not letting go, and how much damage that these things can do to our health in the long run. A big focus for me with the shaking is, especially, as I said, to work on the gut. So we constrict our breathing a lot. We often walk through the world thinking that there is a danger that is not there. We're so used to micro stresses. So there's traffic and there's lots of things that happen that cause us to constantly feel like we need to protect. And when we clench our guts the whole time, this this restricts the diaphragm and it puts pressure on the vagus nerve and stops us from being able to breathe effectively into our bellies. So just by breathing deeply and shaking the body and opening the belly up, we start to produce more oxytocin. We start to relax a lot more and move. Just through a few simple things like this, allow ourselves to move more in the direction of coming into the parasympathetic nervous system, this place of rest and digest. And I'm sure there's many more benefits to shaking, but in a short space of time, we can have so much fun just letting ourselves free, just setting ourselves free from whatever cages, mental or physical, that we're keeping ourselves in. And anybody can do it. Anybody.
I would like to give you a high five for that amazing answer. Wait, let's do a proper one. Man, that was I expected a good answer. That was an excellent answer. Yeah. And you would recommend like 2 minutes, no? Something like that.
I would recommend 5 minutes. I would recommend your favorite song.
Yeah. You put your favorite song, stand and shake.
And these are
shake the legs, upper body, hands.
These are the rituals as well. There's also I also guide through this. So, you can do it on your own with your favorite song. Absolutely perfect. But it's also nice to set an intention and be carried through this experience. And, I also, that's the ritual. It's, it's what we're creating here.
Nice. Yeah. So that's also for me, giving, if I give breathwork sessions to billionaires or the podcast, both of those are very loss making things for myself, because you have to still book the studio and so. But I happily do it because I always get so good advice. Like, I'm happy to share all of this with the audience. And for example, I just got a new A/B test for tonight. So if I, before sleeping, one of the A/B tests for one week, I will just be put my favorite song, shake for 5 minutes, and then see how this affects the overall weekly happiness, how this affects the overall sleeping scores and so on. So always happy to do. So I have a lot of favorite songs. So shaking out to those. I'll tell you which one wins. But it's always always having. I like having this mindset of A/B testing, because I have to do it for my work, but also A/B testing live. A/B testing what you react to well and what works well for you. Well, another thing that I found recently is very beneficial for me. If I can do a lot of things, in my life, and a lot of listeners as well. So a lot of the listeners actually have their own companies and big projects. So I would say I have a more stressed podcast audience than most podcast audiences, more like overachievers. And one advice I give, if I need a day of if I see, okay, I have a quite busy week coming ahead, what I would do on a Sunday, for example, would be one day the phone will stay on flight mode, but also where I won't eat and talk as little as possible. So if you have a day of no food, no phone and no talking, if you even a possible way, but I live with my girlfriend, so of course I would still talk. But in most cases, if you can do it, that's perfect. But if not, then just no phone and not getting food and just drinking a lot of water. This gives me so much energy. So that's one of the A/B tests that I found out this really works for me, and I really recommend testing it. I think also fasting is something that for you is very beneficial, because the amount of energy the body needs to digest the food is if this energy can be put to other places, you get crazy amount of energy. And it's okay if you don't eat for one day. It's not a hard thing.
No, it's really good for the body to just take a moment to just clean, to not have to deal with more and more and more, especially because the food sources we're eating, a lot of the food we're eating is really, it's really not good. We don't know where it comes from, and generally it comes from people who are cutting all the corners that they need to make as many profits and to produce this food as cheaply as possible, using all sorts of things like modification of the food and pesticides.
Even if you buy fruits nowadays, you go to the store and every fruit is this big. I remember when I was 6 years old and I went with my mom. They were not fruits didn't look like this.
Yeah.
It's such a big change in the last 30 years of how fruits look and how big they get.
Yeah, and we could speak for another 2 hours on just diet alone. But the bottom line is it's really, the body appreciates it a lot when we start putting things in, when we start taking in all of these outside sources, including the influence of other people, including cell phones, TV, if we can just suspend that for a while, then what happens is we actually start to connect. We start to connect with ourselves. And the reason why that we avoid that, as I said, is because that's quite difficult to do. That's when we start to feel, and sometimes we don't want to feel. So, you'll notice, and I don't know if you've noticed this a lot, but for me, fasting, especially when I fast for a long period of time, it's a very emotional process.
What would be a long period of time for you?
I mean, I'm heading now in December to do a 10-day fast.
That's a long period.
Yeah. And, I like to do intermittent fasting daily. So I go through cycles. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. But my ideal would be to eat only between 11 o'clock in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. If I can have my way, that's the period in which I would eat. And then the rest of the time, my body's cleaning, my body's using. And when I'm in that phase, I feel the most clear-headed, the most focused, the most energy. For me, that works. And then twice a month, I really like doing, a little bit of a longer fast, 40 hours. We don't need to eat as much as we think we do. You're not going to get thin and weak, and you're not going to, but we don't even understand what hunger is, to be honest, most of the time. Like when you do fasting, you start to realize what hunger is and what compulsion is to eat. So it's very two different things. To really be hungry is not something that you generally feel after 5 hours of not eating. Hunger comes way later, but what you feel after 5 hours is the connection to your addiction to eating. So your addiction to, okay, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I always have lunch at this time. High sodium, high sugar, high fat diets, especially pull you, the whole time. And then you're feeding into something else. But that something else that we're constantly feeding into is putting your organs and stomach and body under a lot of pressure the whole time. But this is also a whole other thing.
You have a lot of knowledge. We can go deep in so many
deep into that. Yeah,
so many things. As with the happiness podcast, and we talked a lot of things that all help and promote more happiness in life. One question I always love is like, what's an uncommon advice on happiness? Like something that's not like shared in all the media. Like what have you found that works for you? Like an uncommon advice you can share with the audience on happiness.
Okay, I love this question. This is gonna sound ridiculously simple, but smiling. We so often think that we need to be happy to smile, that smiling is the result of happiness, and it often is. It is a physical reaction to something good going on, but it's also a trigger. It's also a way to be happy. And just by putting a smile on your face, you actually produce serotonin, which makes you feel good. And I think it would be amazing if, the audience were to try this right now, like despite what's going on, despite what you guys out there are feeling.
When you're sitting on a plane listening to it, wherever you are, just put a big smile on your face.
Whatever you're feeling right now, to know that you can smile anyways. To smile, and this is like being a little bit rebellious, to smile in the face of whatever's going on, whether it feels appropriate or not, and to recognize if the smile on your face right now feels comfortable. Because often we don't feel comfortable with our smile. Sometimes it feels a bit strange. If you feel a little bit awkward smiling, and the work is to get used to your smile, to get used to how beautiful it is, and to get used to how unique it is to you, but also how healing it is for you. And it's also the thing I love about this practice of smiling is it's instantaneous. It's so quick. You don't have to set aside time for it. No matter what, if you just practice smiling, if you choose to do it in the direction of others, it's contagious. People can't help smiling back. That this is a powerful little happiness hack and tool, the most simple one ever, but one that we don't often consider to be a practice. And we can practice our smiling.
Yeah, I agree fully. And here goes now another A/B test I'm gonna make.
Yeah.
So my office is very close to it. The Sigual office. So from my place would be like a 9-minute motor ride, maybe 10 to 12 minutes depending on traffic. No, but in this time normally it's like at my time I would do like a little bit of like conscious meditation and so like relax on my way. But there's no reason why I don't do this with a smile on my face. But anyway, you have a helmet, like it's
and
like,
you don't have to force
and
it.
it's perfect. So just like and then I will see. I'll be another.
Be
A/B
curious
tester.
how much you can relax into it. It's like, so you don't have to, like force it to make it like this cheesy, but just to see how you can soften your face and relax and curl the upper edges of your mouth up, and what attitude that invites and how it makes you feel. Just to get comfortable with that shape on your face.
Yeah, like I'm addicted to this feeling. I love it when you have like, so I have a very big smile. And when I go, like these muscles get used a lot. And if you have like one night with your best friends afterwards, like you laugh so much. I always, like when I will have to go like this, and massage my muscles, because I get like, they get super sore. Like if you smile a lot. And I love this feeling, like getting these muscles sore. It's the best muscles ever to feel weak and tired after a day of good day. You had a good day if those muscles hurt at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. I love all the things we talked about so far. I would say like now let's go into points with things that you still want to share with the audience and where you want to go in deeper. And one thing I would also love is like a bit the mission and impact of Suco Sessions. That's like your biggest thing, no? Like as a founder of it, where you want to bring this in the next five years. Like what can we like? What's going to happen with Suco Session? Where are you going to bring it? What's your big purpose and mission on it? And what else do you want to share? What helped you with what else of your knowledge and wisdom do you want to share with the audience? So the stage is fully yours for those things.
Okay, amazing. So I did speak a little bit about our mission, and I'll just tap on it again, just briefly. But what I would like to, and the Suco team would like to do, is to really provide the tools that people can use in the morning, rituals that they can use as a way to cultivate the state that they want to experience, that they can really feel in a way that is intentional at the beginning of the day, and to give themselves that moment. We want to provide that through a digital channel. And a big part of our journey into doing digital work actually happened in COVID. We were doing events for companies and for the public, and very focused on that. And when COVID hit, we were, like everyone else, forced into captivity or into confinement. And we had no way of sharing anymore. And it's so true to who we are. And it was a very big obstacle to face. So without having any experience or any resources, I mean, we got what we could on Amazon, and we found, some basic tools that we could to broadcast. And we landed up broadcasting live from our living room with pots and pans, basically. And we literally used pots and pans at one point because we didn't know how to broadcast the sound through the Instagram.
Show me a video of it later.
I'll show you. But we didn't know how to connect sound to the Instagram platform because it's a little bit complicated to do that. And we eventually figured it out. But the first time we did it, we put a speaker inside a pot and put the phone there close enough, hoping that it would contain the sound. It didn't. It didn't work very well. But we were broadcasting live from our living room, trying to share this thing for free, just as a way to be of service. And I'm very grateful that we did that, because in a very short space of time, we had thousands of people all over the world tuning in to connect with us a couple times a week as a way to deal with the situation that was really hard for us all to deal with. And it gave us a purpose, and it also was a way for us to connect with and make a lot of friends. But it taught us so much at the same time about the effectiveness of this practice, and how it is something that we can practice at home, and how we can share in this way. And it's very challenging for me to be in many different places, and I do travel, and I'm not really teaching anyone else how to do this practice, but I do want to share it with as many people as possible, and this is the way to do it. So my ambition and my mission for the next couple of years, 5 years, is to find a way to make this as available to as many people around the world, get billions of people around the world finding themselves and reconnecting. And that's what I'm going to be working on.
Exactly, like what you shared me, and I'm also gonna ask you on this, because for me, I found always that it's very beneficial for me. From my A/B testing, I found it's like really helps. Like I reach my goals more likely if I put like a clear number, but an achievable number to it. Like for example, for this podcast, the goal in 5 years is to have 8.5 million people subscribing to it and listening to it. It's a hard goal, but it's a achievable goal, right? And I always like to have like a clear number on it. Like for example, one advice I can give you is like if you say, I want with Suco Session to reach that we reach in 5 years 450,000 people, which of course you could make, for example, no?
Yeah.
So like reaching people offline is a bit harder, but like with Suco, like it's such an amazing concept. It's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and we played around with trying to understand these numbers a little bit.
Exactly.
For a direct live stream in one moment, I would love to connect with 100,000 people.
There we go.
Let's do it.
You got this.
Yeah, I mean that would be
Exactly.
amazing.
And if you need some help, I'll help you. I like
yeah,
helping.
I need help. I need that's one thing that I'm not afraid to ask for, and I will ask for is to team up and to do this as family, because it is what we are here in Barcelona. We're a big family, and we all have something beautiful to offer and can really support and help each other.
I really like the expat community in Barcelona is very good. It's like one big family and everyone's helping each other and
doing amazing things
Yeah.
in their own way, sharing something beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, like for example, I like also what Martin is doing. He's also going to be in the podcast in 1 month, and like, you're very good friends. We won't spoil it for now to the audience, but like a lot of people are doing very amazing
man. He's got
projects.
so much wisdom. He's such a wise soul. I definitely recommend listening to that.
Do you have any final wisdom you would like to share?
So
with the audience,
not specifically. I think if anything, it's just nice to recap on, on what we were speaking about here, and it's just to understand that you're worthy of your love and the time and energy that you would put in to making sure that you are cultivating a healthy environment for yourself within you and around you. And that takes a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, and there are people around you and in the world who are there offering amazing tools to help and support this journey, but you're worthy of it. And it is one of the most important things you can do is find yourself.
There's no better way to end it. That was incredibly beautiful. Thank you so much for being
Chris.
a guest on the Happiness Podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you.
And to all the listeners, I wish you, as always, the most amazing day or night, depending when you're listening to this. And yeah, there's a lot of wisdom from Jamie, so let's put this into practice. And happiness is a skill, so we all got this.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.